Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, looking at some key excerpts from the very beginning of this, enduring story.
Mm.
And for you, our listener who wants to, get to the heart of things quickly but still thoroughly, we're going to explore the essential elements Lee introduces right off the bat.
Yeah, the world of Maycomb, the characters.
Exactly. And those underlying tensions that start to simmer pretty early on.
Right. These initial parts of the novel are just so foundational, aren't they? Our goal today is really to understand how Lee builds this initial landscape.
Setting the stage.
Setting the stage, exactly. Not just for the plot points, but for those deeper themes she gets into later.
Okay, so let's dive in. Setting the scene, Maycomb and the Finch family, how they got there. It's fascinating, even the characters disagree on when it all really began.
It is. Scout thinks it goes all the way back to Andrew Jackson.
Which is such a child's perspective, right? Connecting it to these huge historical figures.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jem, he's more focused on their immediate world. For him, it's Dill showing up. And then, the whole idea about Boo Radley, that's the start.
And then Atticus, ever the wise one, sort of says, well, you're both right.
Which is brilliant, I think. It suggests that personal experience and the bigger historical picture, they're always tangled together.
Even in a place like Maycomb, which might seem kind of isolated.
Precisely. And Lee reinforces that by taking us back to Simon Finch and Finch's Landing. Really anchors the family in that specific place, that land.
And they were incredibly self-sufficient, weren't they? Growing cotton, providing almost everything for themselves.
Almost everything. You mentioned those interesting exceptions.
Right. Ice, wheat flour, clothes from Mobile. It's subtle, but it shows they weren't entirely cut off. There were these threads, these connections.
That's a great observation. It maybe suggests, a kind of cautious engagement with the wider world, relying on it for necessities, but keeping it at arm's length.
Could be. Then we see that tradition start to change. Atticus goes off to study law.
His brother leaves for medicine in Boston. That's a big shift.
It is. But their sister, Alexandra, she stays. Stays at Finch's Landing, marries someone happy with that life.
It highlights that divergence, doesn't it? Even within one family, people choose different paths as times change.
And we get the immediate family picture, too. Scout's mother dying when she was just 2.
Her background in Montgomery, the Graham family, Atticus meeting her while he was in the state legislature.
Yeah, and that age gap, 15 years, it makes you wonder a bit about the context back then.
And Jem's quiet grief for his mother, even though Scout has no memory of her, it's poignant. Shows how loss affects people differently within the same family.
Okay, then everything gets shaken up. Dill arrives.
Dill, yes.
Yeah.
He's like this spark, isn't he? He just injects so much energy and imagination into their summer.
Totally. He kind of takes charge of their games, thankfully freeing Scout from always being the ape in Tarzan. A pocket Merlin, Lee calls him.
Love that description.
Yeah.
But their usual games, they start to feel a bit stale.
And that's when Dill gets fixated on the Radley place.
Yes. Trying to make Boo Radley come out. It becomes their mission for the summer.
Despite everyone warning them off, basically.
Right. Jem and Scout are hesitant, but Dill is just captivated. He keeps his distance near the light pole, but he's always looking, always wondering about that house.
And the description of the house itself. Low, paint faded, shingles drooping, the yard all overgrown.
It perfectly mirrors the family inside, doesn't it? The neglect, the isolation.
Yeah, and their isolation is key. They don't go to church, keep to themselves. In Maycomb, where fitting in seems so important, that makes them stick out like a sore thumb.
Definitely. And Mr. Radley's routine, those timed trips to town, it just adds to the mystery. People speculate Jem thinks he bought cotton.
It's like the town's way of acknowledging him without really knowing him.
Exactly. And then that tiny, fleeting detail, the shutter moving inside the house.
Oh, yeah. Just enough to fuel the kids' imagination and keep those Boo Radley rumors alive.
So summer ends, Dill leaves, and Scout, kind of surprisingly, is actually looking forward to school.
Which isn't just about learning ABCs for her, is it? She's been watching the kids in the schoolyard.
She wants to be part of it, that social connection.
But her first day, wow. It immediately throws these different worldviews into sharp relief. Miss Caroline and her methods.
The alphabet cards, the Dewey Decimal System teaching, Jem's hilarious explanation of that.
And it crashes right into the fact that Scout can already read perfectly well.
Thanks to Atticus.
Yeah.
And Miss Caroline's reaction is, well, it's something else. Telling Scout her father needs to stop teaching her.
The irony, it's so thick. And Scout's complete confusion trying to explain how she learned Jem's story about her being a Finch.
It just highlights how learning happens everywhere, not just in school. and Atticus reading with her every night, that quiet consistency.
Such a contrast to Miss Caroline's rigid, this is the only way approach.
Then we meet the Cunninghams. They're a particular kind of poverty, paying Atticus with hickory nuts and smilax.
It shows a different code, a different economy almost. Atticus explaining entailment gives us that context.
Right, how their land is tied up, keeping them poor despite working hard. And Miss Caroline just doesn't get it.
Leading to that awkward moment with Walter Cunningham's lunch, her trying to lend him a quarter.
And Scout jumps in, trying to explain, but maybe not in the most diplomatic way.
She understands the Maycomb way, though, which is totally alien to Miss Caroline.
And Scout gets punished for it. The other kids seem to think it's funny.
Poor Miss Caroline looks pretty shake it up after that. And then Miss Blount storms in from the 6th grade.
Adds a bit of chaos. Later, Scout wants to beat up Walter, but Jem steps in. Shows his developing sense of fairness, I think.
He does. He sees it wasn't all Scout's fault.
And then comes Calpurnia's big moment. That powerful lesson about hospitality when Walter's over for dinner.
Oh, yes. Respect for guests, no matter who they are. That's fundamental for Calpurnia. And we find out then that Cal taught Scout to write cursive.
Her influence is so clear. Then, the Yules arrive on the scene, embodied by Burris.
What a contrast to the Cunninghams. Filthy, rude, defiant.
Absolutely shocking. And his blunt statement that he only comes on the first day of school every year. It just shows how far outside the town's norms they are.
Miss Caroline is just completely lost dealing with him. You can see it.
The other kids try to comfort her afterwards, which is kind of sweet, even if they don't really get it.
And Calpurnia shows her softer side later, making crackling bread, saying she missed them. It's a nice touch, that bond.
It is. Which leads perfectly into Atticus's big lesson, doesn't it? About climbing into someone's skin and walking around in it.
Trying to get Scout to see Miss Caroline's perspective, why she made the mistake with Walter. Empathy.
But Scout, being Scout, immediately brings up Burris Yule. Why do I have to go to school if he doesn't?
Huh. Good question. And Atticus's explanation about the Yules, their history, the kind of allowances made for them.
The privileges the common folk give them because they live like animals, basically. It's crucial for understanding Maycomb's weird social rules and inequalities.
Yeah, how some people just operate outside the law. Or seem to.
Okay, so switching back to Boo Radley. The kids find things in the tree.
The chewing gum, and then the Indian head pennies, little gifts.
It really kicks their curiosity into high gear again. But Jem is immediately cautious, don't touch things from the Radley trees.
That fear is still there.
There are plans to get Boo out, get more involved, driven by Dill, lots of play acting.
Jem trying hard to look brave. Classic kid stuff. And Miss Maudie offers a different view, doesn't she? More grounded.
Yeah, basically saying, mind your own business, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And she defends Atticus's parenting. Plus, pound cake.
Can't forget the pound cake. She's a solid presence. Then Dill writes the note.
The blend with the fishing pole. And trying to bribe Boo with ice cream. Their ideas about what he looks like are hilarious. Dill thinks he eats cats.
Kids' imagination's running wild. The attempt to deliver the note goes wrong when Dill rings the dinner bell.
Right, in Atticus's face, perfect timing.
And that's when Atticus puts his foot down. Firmly. Stop tormenting the man. He uses that great comparison. How would you like it if I barged into your rooms? Simple respect for privacy.
It's a clear boundary being set. Then we get those little neighborhood sketches, like Mr. Avery and his unique habits.
Sneezing on the porch, the water arc incident adds color to Maycomb.
It does. But the real escalation is that nighttime raid on the Radley place.
Oh, yeah. That's intense. The loose shutter, the step creaking, seeing a shadow.
And then the shotgun blast. Terrifying. And Jem loses his pants scrambling away.
Dill saves the day, sort of, with that quick thinking about strip poker.
Miss Rachel's reaction is priceless. Atticus isn't amused by the gambling talk, though.
No, but Jem feels he has to go back for those pants. Can't let Atticus know the real reason they were there.
It shows how much he respects Atticus or fears disappointing him. And finding the pants. Mended. And folded.
Chilling, isn't it? Someone knew he'd be back. Someone was watching. Maybe helping.
It deepens the mystery significantly. And then the knothole in the tree gets filled with cement.
Mr. Radley claims the tree's dying, but Jem doesn't buy it. He asks Atticus, who confirms the tree looks healthy.
Jem knows something's up. That connection, whoever it was, has been deliberately cut off.
Then, a really unusual event for Maycomb's snow.
A huge deal for the kids. And they built the snowman. Looks suspiciously like Mr. Avery.
Atticus gently tells them maybe not to make caricatures of the neighbors. Another quiet lesson.
Miss Maudie finds it funny, though. But then, the mood shifts dramatically. Fire.
Miss Maudie's house. The whole town turns out to help. It's a real community moment.
And Miss Maudie's reaction is incredible. So resilient. Already planning her smaller house and bigger garden, worrying about Mr. Avery.
She even keeps her sense of humor about Stephanie Crawford wanting the recipe. Remarkable woman.
Yeah.
And she understands the kids' role with the snowman, their job.
Yeah, that connection is lovely. But amidst all this, Atticus's central role starts coming into sharper focus, especially regarding the Tom Robinson case.
Scout asks him point blank if he defends, well, she uses the racial slur she's heard.
And Atticus immediately corrects her, tells her never to use that word, explains he's defending Tom Robinson, a man from Calpurnia's church.
Despite the town gossip, the pressure, Judge Taylor assigning him the case, maybe delaying it, you feel the weight of it.
You do. And Scout actually manages not to fight Cecil Jacobs when he insults Atticus at school.
That's huge for her, remembering what Atticus asked, real growth.
Then Christmas at Finch's Landing, we meet Uncle Jack.
Scout loves him. He seems to get her, mostly. But then comes the confrontation with Cousin Francis.
Francis, repeating the ugly nigger lover slur he heard from Alexandra.
And Scout loses it, punches him right in the mouth.
Can't entirely blame her. Uncle Jack punishes her first without hearing her side.
But she explains later, tells him what Francis said, and Jack realizes his mistake.
Which leads to that important late-night conversation between Atticus and Jack, which Scout overhears. About parenting, about telling kids the truth.
And Atticus voices his hope that Jem and Scout will come to him for answers, trust him, and not catch Macomb's usual disease of prejudice.
It's such a pivotal moment. He knows what's coming and what he's asking of his children.
And finally, that brings us to the Mad Dog incident. Tim Johnson.
Jem spots him first. Looking wrong, lopsided. Calpurnia's reaction is immediate. She knows the danger instantly.
Her urgency, calling Atticus, warning the neighbors. It's serious.
Atticus arrives with Sheriff Hecate. Tate confirms that the dog's gone mad.
And then, the surprising moment, Tate basically hands the rifle to Atticus, says it's a one-shot job.
Revealing this completely unknown skill. Atticus Finch was once known as One-Shot Finch.
He takes a shot, calm, precise, drops the dog instantly.
The kids are just stunned, shocked, and then immensely proud.
Miss Maudie confirms it, tells them their father had the deadliest shot in Macomb County but put his gun down years ago.
Jem especially seems to see his father in a whole new light. It's not just about being bookish or quiet. There's this hidden strength, this capability.
A different kind of courage. It adds another layer to Atticus, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, wrapping up this first deep dive into To Kill a Mockingbird, what have we really pulled out for you, the listener? Well, there's that undeniable sense of place, Macomb itself.
We've met the key players, started to see their relationships shift and develop.
The whole Boo Radley mystery is firmly established, creating that underlying tension and curiosity.
And we've definitely seen the social hierarchy, the different codes people live by, and those first unmistakable signs of the racial prejudice that permeates the town.
You should now have a much richer feel for the foundation Lee builds in these opening chapters. It's all there, the world, the people, the seeds of conflict.
It really sets everything up beautifully.
And maybe it leaves us with a final thought to chew on. How do these early moments, these character sketches, these seemingly small childhood adventures actually foreshadow the major trials and revelations to come? What assumptions might you be making right now based only on these first glimpses of Macomb and its people?
Yeah, it's worth considering how these threads will weave together.
Definitely something to reflect on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.